Yeah.
All right. Let me share it real quick. All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And yeah, it's the brother Bukwar Math. I have the brother Ayash here, and we just wanted to get into a quick lesson dealing with this article. As you can see in the title, the EU divided in mind over Russia energy sanctions. And this is an article from RT News. Now, what I'll do is I'll put the link to it in the chat because we tried to open it, but for some reason it wasn't working on here. So hopefully I can follow along from. Well, actually, I can't put it in the chat. I think you'd have to copy it and put it in the main comment section. But nevertheless, as all these things are taking place, dealing with prophecy, as we've been going into a lot, because that's the time we're in. You have
it worked. So like it worked.
It worked?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So you have these European countries that are now, now they're saying they want the EU as a whole to have like a unanimous decision to completely do a ban on Russian oil. The problem with that is a lot of these European countries depend on Russian oil, not on a level of we can do without it, or this is something that we love Ukraine so much, or we want to support them so much that we're willing to do this. So you have countries that are now saying, look, we're not going to go with you fully on with this ban. It doesn't matter. I understand what's going on in there. I understand that it's bad, but we're not going to support this ban because this is going to affect us more so in the long run and in the short run than it is you. And we can't put our country and our civilian, our people at risk on that level. You see? And so that's causing that division in there. Now, we know ultimately, according to prophecy, that the beast is going to be divided. Okay? And so much so that you're going to have the allies, the so-called allies of America, something is going to happen in the midst of prophecy where they're going to turn and they're going to shoot missiles on America too, because now they're going to say, really, you don't have our best interest in mind. So why should we be allied with you anymore?
Yeah.
See, why is an ally an ally? Because you benefit each other. You're friends, you're cool. But friends, become enemies. Friends can become enemies, and when they become enemies, they become the worst of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always something that can cause that rift and that division.
Right.
So yeah, we could get into the article and then we could get into the precepts that we got. So we're definitely living in prophetic times right now. There's a lot going on, and like we say, sometimes it's like it's quiet for a bit, and then the Lord just sparks things up, boom, boom, boom. Then it slows down for a bit, but each time it does that, it gets closer and closer to that ultimate prophecy. There you go. Split opens up in EU. Yeah, we can see it.
All right, cool. It says split opens in EU over Russia energy sanctions. Hungary said its energy supply is not an ideological question after a decline to back potential embargoes on Russian oil. Hungary's top diplomat has indicated that his country will not support new economic sanctions on Russian energy firms, arguing the move could backfire. Peter, whoever this is, also warned that no-fly zone proposal for Ukraine risks sparking a larger regional conflict.
God. So you got these nations that are saying, look, at the end of the day, we understand what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, but they're saying there's only so much we can do to where it doesn't come back and bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, the nations that are pushing more for this are nations that aren't going to suffer as much as the other ones that are allied to them. So that's why they're saying, look, he said this is not some philosophical or ideological situation. This is real life.
Yeah.
The numbers are real. We get affected. So we're not going to support this because what do we do then? Do you have a contingency plan for us? Do you have something to back us up? And he's saying that that no-fly zone, these nations they're not idiot. They're not mad,
Yeah.
right? They know what mad is, which is mutually assured destruction, as they call
Yeah.
it. And they know that Russia is a world superpower. And Russia has massive nuclear capability.
Mm-hmm.
China also has a massive arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
And because Russia has allies. So if something was to spark between Ukraine and what's going on over there, if the West was to exacerbate that and make it worse, there would be, like he said, it would spark into a larger regional conflict. But they'd be mad because they'll say, look, things were bad over there, but it wasn't bad enough to where you had to go and start a whole nuclear war over it.
Huh.
Now look now all of us are screwed because your dumbass wanted to go and set up a no-fly zone and provoke them even more.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add on because I like bringing this point out that the reason one of the elders pointed out also that the reason Babylon is called the virgin daughter of Babylon, not just the daughter of Babylon, is because of what they don't share the experience of war as these other nations have. Now you take into account of World War I, World War II, it wasn't fought here on American soil. You know, the things that they had to suffer through, American does not have that experience. No American can speak of these things. And I made a video about this where there was a European I think general, and after World War II he came into America. And he was like, yeah, the lands that you're living in is beautiful, man, compared to what happened in Europe. So what the brother's saying that these nations are not mad and that they understand what mutually assured destruction is because they have an understanding of what war does to them. They've known hunger, right? They've known their buildings broken into pieces. They've witnessed tanks on their soil. They've witnessed invasions. And so they are cognizant and prudent enough to make sure that, look, we understand how bad it was. So we have to do everything in our power to make sure we prevent these things. And that's the problem that they have with Babylon. You know, the virgin daughter of Babylon, they have not been touched like these other nations have. That's why they're so quick and eager to always take drastic measures. They think that the world that they live in is a trial and error thing. It's not a trial and error thing. The things that you do, they bear consequences, man. And the fact that they don't share that experience of consequences, that is what push them to do these things, and that's what makes these NATO nations hate them, man. They don't like them taking these chances. They don't like them always too haste to do certain things that will bring destruction upon their head, that will bring misfortune upon their head. You know, that's what this whole thing is about. And they hate it even more that they don't have a say in it, you know, because the United States, I'm going to say, man, they don't understand what the word ally mean. They think that NATO is a vassal, you know. There's a huge difference between these things. A vassal is somebody that's under you. You tell them what to do, and then they do it. And an ally is something that you have to be one accord with. You have to plan with him. You have to make a decision with him. But the United States, they think otherwise. They're going to make decisions for them. They're going to make plans without them. You know, that an ally is not going to last for long if you act that way, you know. That's just all I wanted to bring on that. And they act this way because what? They are virgins. They are virgin daughter of Babylon. They have not been touched like these other nations, you know.
Yeah, very beautiful point. Yeah, the scriptures say that their look was more stout than their fellows. They got that pride, but that's why John saw them as the whore that is riding upon the scarlet colored beast. You know, so she's directing and leading them, but she's going to lead them into their destruction, and ultimately that beast is going to turn his head right around and burn her ass.
Yeah, scripture says they dwell carelessly.
Right.
Continuing, says, speaking to reporters following a meeting with fellow European Union members in Brussels on Monday, the Hungarian foreign minister said Budapest is unlikely to back penalties targeting Russia's gas and oil, as they are liable to harm its own interest.
There you go. You know, so that's like trying to set off a grenade in the building that you live in, because you're saying, well, the next door neighbor, I'm really trying to target him. But then you like, hold on. If we all allies and you talking about, yo, bro, let's set off a nuke in the building. You like, my nigga, I live here. My family lives here. Yeah, but the enemy lives right next door too, so we could get him. Okay, but what do I lose in that? Because you don't live here. You know? So you just doing whatever. You know you don't live here, but I live here. I got to pay the consequence of that. You know? And eventually that's going to turn to the point where when your friend says, nah, I don't care what you say, I'm still going to set off that nuke, that grenade. Now you start saying, hold on, maybe I might need to rethink who my friends and enemies are.
Yep.
Because now me and this so-called enemy next door might need to work together to make sure this nigga don't set off no bomb, because now he's gonna affect all of us.
Yeah. Self-preservation, man.
Mm-hmm.
An agreement, he quoted that an agreement on possible EU sanctions against Russian energy supplies or their interruption will most likely not be reached. He said, adding that we will not support any sanctions that could pose a risk to energy supplies to Hungary. That's right. And I was pointing out to the brother that, look, man, Americans will complain that gas is, is up, you got $5 and all these things, and Americans are bugging out. But these other nations, to fill out your tank, it costs like 20% of your monthly salary, and you expect them to just be too eager to follow you into whatever it is that you do now, man. When something happens, we bear the brunt of it. We take on the most consequences, and you just get a slap on the wrist. And then you have the audacity to tell us we're in this together. Fuck you, man. And that is the mindset of these other nations,
Right. God.
The FM's comment to follow reports.
Oh, actually, read that part above it real quick.
Yeah.
Cool.
Some countries are dependent on Russian energy supplies. We don't do this for fun. Energy supply is not a philosophical or ideological question, but a physical, mathematical one.
There you go. So they're saying it. Look, the numbers matter. When these prices go up, that's not, oh, well, if these go up this amount, then that would lead to this. It's not what it would lead to. It's what it is leading to. And that's what we're going through, because like you were saying, we feel it. These countries feel it worse than the U.S., and certain other countries that are better off. So now when your alliance starts to cost you more than it benefits you, then you have to rethink your alliance.
Yep.
Especially when they still don't care and they don't regard. And this is causing a division, even more division, which we're going to get that as well, because you have Brexit. You had Brexit where Britain exited the EU, but now even amongst the countries that are still in there, you're having this decision. See, the Most High is having events take place that is going to cause that prophecy to come to pass. All right. So that's why when the Lord says his word doesn't come back to him void, that's exactly what he means, because he'll make sure something happens to lead to whatever he said was going to happen.
Right. Continue, says, the FM's comment follow reports that the EU would meet to consider that an all-out embargo on Russian energy, though the body was split on the issue after Monday's summit, according to Reuters.
Right. And they were saying that if they did do an all-out embargo, that prices would go to about $300 to $500 a barrel. So can you imagine right now it's about 109, 120 something, and you paying almost you paying like 430 something, 420 something for gas. What you think will happen if the prices went up to $300 to $500 a barrel? Yeah. And gas is not used for just driving. Gas is used. Oil is used in these companies that make your food.
Yep.
Oil is used for gas is used more heavily with these truckers. Yep. But there's a lot of companies that utilize that in order to make other things that you need.
Yeah, even for supply chains,
Mm-hmm.
For it can link to famine. While Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney argued that it's very hard to make the case that we shouldn't be moving in on Russia's energy sector, given the extent of destruction in Ukraine. He faced pushback from not only Hungary, but Germany and Netherlands as well.
Because they're heavily dependent on Russia's oil and their gas. So they're like, look, nah, man, we're not finna do this, because I understand what you're saying, but then again, we can't just jeopardize our whole nation just off of that.
The question of an oil embargo is not a question of whether we want war or don't want it, but a question of how much we depend on oil.
There you go.
Berlin's foreign oh,
You got it.
Berlin's foreign minister Annalena Baerbock took reports noting that some EU states cannot simply stop the oil imports from one day to another.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Man,
Yes.
Sijardo or something like that
Mm-hmm.
also voiced concerns over other plans floated by EU and NATO members in recent weeks, including calls for a no-fly zone over Ukraine and an armed peacekeeping mission to end fighting there, saying that those issues must be discussed clearly as there is a new war risk.
There you go. So now, and that's why Yahushua spoke about what? Wars and rumors of wars. Because all these things are tensions. What happened?
No, got it.
I was gonna say that the tensions that can lead to a full on outright World War III. And they know these nations know that if and when World War III pops off, it will go nuclear. No country is gonna sit there and say this shit is getting wild. We got nukes, we got hypersonic missiles, supersonic missiles, ICBM missiles, and we're just gonna sit there and lose this war. No, no,
Mhm.
no, no, no. They're gonna hit those buttons. So they know that at some point the conflict will take a turn to where it goes from conventional to nuclear. And
Yep.
that's why they're so cautious about that, because they're saying that's why he said we have to be very clear, because you sending peacekeeping troops in there doesn't mean that it's going to stay on the level of just troops and gunfire.
Con. He saw us back into a corner, man.
Mm-hmm.
We must avoid that. Hungary's interest is clear. Hungary wants to stay out of this war. We will stick to NATO's common position and reject proposals that risk either an air war or an extended war on the ground, he added. The FM stated that while Hungary will not attempt to block other EU members from shipping additional weapons to Ukraine forces, it also will not take part in such transitions. Nor allow arms to cross its territory.
Mm-hmm. So they said we're not having no parts of this. We
Yeah,
ain't gonna stop you, but you do what you want, but we ain't having no parts in this. So what is that leading to? That's leading to that division. That's causing that division because they're not all seeing eye to eye. And it's gonna get to the point where in a war, you can't just be neutral. At some
right.
point, you gotta pick a side,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know? So if the rest of NATO says we do this and it leads to war, then by definition, was it Article 5 or so? If you are a NATO ally and another ally is at war, you got to go to war.
yeah.
So if you say, well, I'm not going to partake in this, but then because of my allies partaking in it, that leads to war, that's going to drag your ass into war. Now
Mhm.
you got to pick whose side are you on.
Right.
And eventually, like the scriptures say, which we're going to get, they're going to turn around and they're going to shoot missiles on America. They're going to burn her flesh with fire.
Um, right. It says, though the Hungarian government has condemned Moscow's attack on Ukraine and agreed to some sanctions, Prime Minister Viktor Orban has insisted that his country must stay out of the conflict and has repeatedly refused to support weapon shipments.
Mm-hmm.
Moscow attacked the neighborhood state. And I just want to say that, this is how you know prophecies are coming to pass, because the very reason that NATO was formed was to subdue Russia. And so, seeing as how Russia ain't being subdued, but as a matter of fact, in the same mindset that they were in back then, what does that tell you about NATO? It's eventually going to crumble down because they're not able to accomplish the very goal that they've been set out to to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Moscow attacked the neighboring state in late February, following a 7-year standoff over Ukraine's failure to implement the terms of the Minsk agreements and Russia's eventual recognition of the Donbas Republic in um,
Donetsk.
Donetsk and Lugansk.
Mm-hmm.
The German and French brokered protocols are designed to regularize the status of the regions within the Ukrainian state.
All right, that's pretty much it on that. that we got to read. So now with that information, now let's hit what we got. Let's start with Mark, because that's why these scriptures are written, and that's our job. Our job is to know the prophecies in the scriptures. But when we see these things going on in real life, we're supposed to then match it and link it up with the scriptures that are written, because the scriptures are not written in modern day vocabulary. They're not going to say that the European Union did this or this did this, but it is going to talk about the same thing, the same people, and the same events. So we are the interpreters to know that, well, when it says the beast or it says that the horns, is talking about these people, and that's related to this. So when we see these different events, we know what is that talking about? Where is that in the scriptures? Because it is in the scriptures. So we could start off with that in Mark 3.
Mark chapter 3, verse 24, it says, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand.
So eventually what's going to happen? Because you have that division, divisions become, like Apostle R said, a big problem is really just a small problem that got out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have small skirmishes, that's why the Lord said, let not the sun go down on your wrath. Because when you have somebody does something to you, and you let it fester, it becomes bigger and bigger. And then later on, if something else goes down, whatever they did before gets added on to whatever just went down into an even bigger thing.
Damn.
And before you know it, that little division, that crack, because all it takes is a crack.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have a crack, it's going to keep on expanding and expanding. Like if you have a crack in your windshield, over time, you're going to see how the crack is getting longer and longer. And it's only a matter of time before your joint just breaks.
And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand.
There you go. That house cannot stand. So that's what we're seeing right now. Esau's kingdom is, as well as much as they are pushing towards that one world, order, there's also that division, and the Lord is doing that so that it can lead to that prophecy in Revelation 17, like the brother put in the comment section. But we'll get to it.
Okay. Jump to
Daniel. With that. Mm-hmm.
Daniel chapter 2, starting from verse 40, it says, and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise.
Right. So now in Daniel, the 2nd chapter, you have Nebuchadnezzar, which was the king of Babylon, right? Who was an Assyrian. He basically the Lord gave him a vision of the different empires, the major empires and kingdoms that were to rule after him, starting with him. All right. And you read right now on verse 40, Daniel is basically letting Nebuchadnezzar know what his dream was. And the first, you had the first, the second, the third, and the fourth empire, or the fourth kingdom, which Daniel is describing. It starts with the Roman Empire. Okay, that's what it's talking about. That Roman Empire is the one that was as strong as iron. And as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdueth all things, because iron is a very strong metal, it likens the Roman Empire's strength onto that iron. How Rome was also going to break in pieces and bruise all these other nations, which it did in its time. Verse 41.
And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided.
Mm-hmm.
But there shall be in it the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay.
There you go. And so now the feet goes passed on to the next kingdom, because when you deal, even in the book of Revelation, you hear about the first beast, then the second beast, which is really the first beast revived.
Right.
And that's the same here. The feet, which is dealing with NATO and the EU, and the toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, because you have some nations that are stronger and some nations that are weaker.
Right.
But it says what? The kingdom shall be what? Divided. So that's what you're seeing going on, because the European Union is a big bulk of this beast. Right. NATO and the EU, and there's some countries that are in both NATO and the EU, right? But there's some countries that are only in the EU. All right. So you have or only in NATO, right? But either or, this body, which is a part of that beast, that kingdom, is divided. And that's because of little things here and there. And what you think it was like during the ancient Roman Empire. Okay. And that division, a brother put a precept on here. Way H Town 144. Gone. That's Matthew 25 in the NLT, and it says Yahushua knew their thoughts and replied, "Any kingdom divided by civil war is doomed, because it cannot stand united. A town or family splintered by feuding will fall apart. Splintered by what? Feuding. So what does that start with? That starts with something that gets proposed, but then is not everybody is agreeing on it. It's not unanimous. So eventually that leads to more, here and there. Okay, all right, you guys do it. I ain't gonna partake of it, But then soon they say, well, since you part of the family, you gotta, support us in this aspect. But then you say, no, I ain't gonna do it. So now what happens? That causes a split in the family. Then you're going to have some people that side with you and some that side with the rest of the family. And then eventually what happens? You completely split. And when you split, you don't split on good terms. So it's really only a matter of time before that split turns into you guys becoming enemies and now leading to something else, which we're about to read in Revelation 17.
Revelation chapter 17, starting from verse 1. It says, "And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters."
So now who is the great whore? The great whore is Babylon, which today is known as America. Go ahead.
"With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornications, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication."
Yeah, and you have the westernization, quote unquote. These nations have conformed to the ways of Babylon, and also in partaking in these trade deals and these treaties and these agreements that they have in order. Why do you think Russia's not a part of the beast, but yet they're able to throw all these sanctions on Russia? Because the sanctions limit the trade and the imports and exports and the dealings that these nations have with Russia.
Right.
So if they're able to put sanctions on Russia, that means Russia was a part of the nations that fornicated with them.
Yeah.
And now they're pretty much saying we're gonna cut that off. We're not gonna fornicate with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So that's an example of the fornication. I export things, you buy them, you import, I buy your things. We deal on that level. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Verse 3. "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns."
There you go. So now you know why the U.S. is so proud and they speak the way they do. They speak down to their allies, the so-called allies, because they are that woman that is sitting upon the scarlet-colored beast. And the scarlet-colored beast is NATO and the EU. Okay? It says here, and as it says, it has 7 heads and 10 horns, which the 10 horns represent the European Union. Now, today, there are more than 10 countries in it, but originally it started off that way. Go ahead. So the woman is a part of the beast, but she's really on top of the beast, like how Rome was a part of the Roman Empire, but then again, it was like the head of the Roman Empire.
"And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornications."
Yeah, so they were dressed in royalty and royal apparel, all right, the glory of kingdoms, and yet they were full of abominations, and that's why the Lord is now uncovering those abominations and that filth.
And upon her head was written was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and abomination of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
Right, so that's because when you read in Revelation 13 and 14, it talks about those that wouldn't worship the image of the beast should be killed. So you're going to have some that are going to be beheaded for the testimony of Yahushua, all right? But you're also going to have some that are going to be delivered. That's why John saw the blood of the saints. The saints are Israelites.
And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will show thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns.
Mm-hmm.
The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition.
Boom. So right there, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, meaning that this beast ain't new. This was that same old beast, which was the ancient Roman Empire. It was and is not, meaning that Rome went down for a period of time. All right, and that's when you had the quote unquote Dark Ages, or the Holy Roman Empire, which was different than the pagan Roman Empire.
Right.
Right, and it says, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, which was when that deadly wound was healed.
Mm-hmm.
The bottomless pit being Europe, that's where the Renaissance started, the quote unquote rebirth.
Right.
That was their ascension out of Europe, or the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, meaning that they're gonna come out from there. They're gonna grow and establish themselves into this system we see today as NATO and the EU, but they're ultimately gonna be destroyed at the end of it all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.
Right. So that's why you got individuals today that are down with the system, that look at this place as though this is one of the greatest empires that has ever been, and they're ready to ride or die with this place, because they're not written in the Lambs or in the book of life, which
Mm-hmm.
means they're not of the elect.
Right.
The elect, the scripture said that the elect love not their lives unto the death.
Right.
So the elect are not going to look at this place with admiration,
Mm-hmm.
like these other peons do.
Come out of it,
Right.
And let's see, verse 19. And here's the
Verse 9.
mind. Huh?
Verse 9.
Oh, verse 9. That's like it. And here's the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
Meaning 7 governments, not 7 individuals, or Cain and Nimrod. No. It's talking about 7. Khan, this is Shalom. This is Elder Apostle Ramlab. The beast in the 8th verse is America.
Oh, yeah.
Which our swords is not, and it's Khan. The water is a Khan. Yep. The beast in the 8th verse is America. Yeah, because ultimately the scriptures say that America is going to be destroyed, because when Yahushua comes back, the scriptures say in 1 hour shall it be destroyed. So Khan, the water, yep.
And there were 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other one is not yet come.
That's right. And when you go into that, you had the Greeks, you had Rome, you had Hispania, you had Gaul, you had Germania Major, and you had Germania Minor, and then you had Britannia, right, which makes 7. So you had 5 are fallen and 1 is. Now the one that was the Roman Empire, because at that time of John receiving the vision, that was the empire. They were still there. And the one that was not yet to come was the Britain, or Britannia.
And when he cometh, he must be continued. He must continue a short space.
Mm-hmm.
And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition.
Right, and yep. Just to back up, like what the elder said, is America, because America, which was and is not, he is the 8th, because America came from the 7th, right? It's of the 7th, because when you go into it, America, which started off as 13 colonies, came from what? Britain. It was one of the Britain was like the mother, all right, where you got America that came from. It says, and go off into perdition, because ultimately what's going to happen? This space is going to be destroyed by the thermonuclear missiles and by the fire of the chariots. Go on. Now, a part of that perdition, tying back to the lesson, is going to be what? When these Russia, as well as these other nations, but a part of these other nations that are going to shoot those missiles are going to be what? They're going to be some of these EU nations, which, as we keep reading, is going to tell you that.
Verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
God, because ultimately, when you look at these these European nations, their kingdom is together with this beast, so that's why they pretty much work as a body. They're like different. Of course, you got France and you got UK and you got this, but to be in power, to have that rulership, they do it together as that beast. So they all give their power onto the beast to rule as that conglomerate body of the beast, which is that's why we say the beast overall is NATO and the EU. Go ahead.
These have one mind, and shall give their power and their strength unto the beast.
There you go. And that's going to be for a time period, because as we're going to read later on, what's going to happen? Go on.
Verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords, the King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful.
And you can read about that in Revelation, the 19th chapter, because it tells you that when Yahushua comes back, he that doeth judge and make war in righteousness. And then it tells you that he's going to slay the beast, and with him the false prophet, which have deceived them, that had taken deceived them with those miracles, that had received the mark, and so on and so forth. So when Yahushua comes back, they all going to stop, as it tells you in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, and they're going to fight against Yahushua. All right. But what's going to happen? They're going to make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. So in Revelation 12, that's why it says that, and their place was found no more in heaven. You got it?
And he said unto me, the water which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitude and nations and tongues.
Mm-hmm.
And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore.
Boom. So that's the key part right there. The 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So who's the whore? The whore is America. And the 10 horns going into the so-called, the so-called allies, what are they going to do? They're going to hate the whore, right? Or, they shall hate the whore. So now, here's the key part. Why are they going to hate the whore? And ultimately, as we're about to read, what is that hate going to cause them to do? Because like you were mentioning earlier, if you treat an ally the way you treat a vassal, they're not going to be an ally for long.
That's right.
When you don't consider their interest and you make decisions without them, eventually it's going to lead to animosity. Right. It's going to lead to that tension in between. And the Lord has set it up to where something is going to happen that's going to escalate the situation so much that the hate that they're going to have for the whore is going to be enough for them to do what you're about to read.
Yeah. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire.
So no, that's not literal, because the European nations are not actually going to eat America's flesh. That's metaphorical. But as it says, and shall burn her with fire. So how are they going to do that? Are they gonna come to America and light matches from Cali and New York? No, they're gonna shoot their missiles over here as well. That's why this place is gonna be a lake of fire, because there's gonna be so much fire that is gonna be likened onto a lake, as the scriptures say, the besom of destruction. And it's gonna sweep across this area, and it's gonna completely make this place a desert. It's gonna burn this place. As well as you're going to have the people, the cars. I did a video on being burned alive. I went into a little bit of details about what actually happens when your body is being burned. And it mentioned how you have certain gases and fluids in your body that can be used as fuel for fire. So as the fire is hitting, the people are also going to be a part of the fuel for the fire. And that's why it's going to be so much fire upon this place, to the point where even, like we just read, the allies of America, right, that were a part of the beast, are going to turn and they're going to shoot their missiles on the whore. Go on.
Verse 18, and the woman 17. Which thou 17. Mm-hmm. God has put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled.
Boom. So that's the key part right there. Because the Most High put it into their minds to fulfill his will, to what? To agree. So they have to be agreed in for a time period to accomplish certain prophecies. But then after that, what's going to happen? It says, for the Most High have put it into their hearts, meaning their minds, to fulfill his will and to agree and to give their kingdom onto the beast. So to be in to stay together for
Tolerate.
this beast to be in power, yeah, to accomplish certain prophecies. Because the MOTB is the mark of the what? The beast. But if there's no beast, then how do you have a mark of the beast? So they got to be together for certain prophecies to be fulfilled. But it says what? Until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. So at a certain point, after the Most High has had them do what they need to do together as a beast, they're gonna turn around and do what we just read of in verse 17.
Huh.
Go ahead.
And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
Right. So who is that great? The woman, which is Babylon, here in verse 18 is referred to as that great city. And we also hear mention of that great city when you read in Revelation 11 and 8, which talks about the dead bodies of the Israelites are going to lie in the street of that great city, which is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And we know that's talking about America, right? So we know that this woman, which is also the great city, which is called Babylon, is actually talking about America.
Huh.
But to tie it all in, that is why this article that we brought it out, because ultimately these articles and these events that take place here and there and here and there, they're all leading to something. These are not just outlier events that just take, oh, something happened here, something happened here, something happened here. No, these things happen here. They're like dominoes being put one after another, one after another. It may take some time before another one is put, and they may not be put directly right behind each other. So you may think, oh, it's just random. But when that last domino is put and is hit, and then you start seeing it all get hit, that's when you're going to realize, oh, that's why they had the whole Sicky Wiki situation. Oh, that was the real reason behind them pushing the propaganda of Russia and Ukraine. Oh, that's why they did this. That's why they passed this. That's why Biden said this. Because it's all together. And the reason they're going to be successful to a point is because, like we read, the Most High put it into their hearts to fulfill his will. So really, as a matter of fact, this shows you why they're going to push the charagma. Because the charagma is really the will of the Lord, but he's put it into their minds for it to be their agenda. So how do we know that they're going to push the charagma? We know because the only reason they want to do it is because it's the will of the Lord and he's put it into their minds to do it.
God.
And nobody has resisted the will of the Lord, so they're going to do it. But that's it. You got it, brother, if you got anything.
Oh, no, you put it beautifully. Some precepts here, if you want me to hit them.
Oh, yeah, here.
Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 12, it says, your mother shall be so confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nation shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert.
Mm-hmm. So yep, there you go. So now who is her mother? The mother is Britain. Like we read of in, I believe, the 8th verse where it says the 8th that cometh of the 7.
Right.
So that's showing that relationship between America and the and Britain. And going back to the verse, like the elder Apostle Ramlab put in the chat, that beast in the 8th verse. Let me go back to it and see. Right, the beast that thou sawest and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, is dealing with America. Because we know that the beast in general is dealing with NATO and the EU, but there are specific verses in there where it's specifically talking about America, or specifically talking about, like, even when you read in Revelation 13, it talks about the beast having 2 horns, the appearance as a lamb having 2 horns. And we know that at that point it's specifically dealing with America, so just wanted to put that, clarification out there.
Sure.
But yeah, that's pretty much it on that. Unless you got anything.
Nope, man. Babylon's about to be destroyed.
That's it. So hey, we in the time of prophecy, and of course we're excited, but that's also why you have to know these prophecies, because that way when they take place, See, Isaiah 33:6, right? And knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of thy times. You got to have the oil, because that knowledge and wisdom is like the oil in Matthew 25. So if you don't have it, you're not going to be stable, because you're not going to know what's actually going on. So in order to have the stability of mind, you got to know what the prophecies say, because we are actually living in the time of prophecy. So all the things happening in the world are prophetic. So if you don't understand what the prophecies are, or the measuring stick, how can you measure the times diligently? That's why we got to give our diligence to study and to know these things, so that when they take place, we know what's going on, we know exactly where we are in prophecy, and we know what's to come next. And through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, we know what to do when these things come upon us. But yeah, so with that, the water for tuning in, the water for the precepts,
Done.
the water for the elder for putting the comment too, and Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Barakatam to you all.
Shalom.
Shalom. Oh, got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Kodesh. Never forget that. Shalom. Yeah.